Hello, I'm Kim Warren, and in this presentation I'm going to explain about how we might move from strategy models to digital twin models based on system dynamics models. I'm going to take you through a business case example. First to say is you can actually get this slideshow at the link shown there, sdl.re/sds-la-digital twin. Now, system dynamics models are typically built to serve two common purposes, either to solve one-off challenges like fixing poor service quality or fighting off a competitor, or to set up longer-term plans, a business plan, for example, or a staffing or marketing strategy. But system dynamics models can do more. They can get very close to mimicking the continuing performance of an organization, department, or an ongoing issue, and that gives us the possibility of a model becoming what's known as a digital twin of the situation. And that opens up the possibility that the model can guide both operational and strategic decision making. Most articles and models you'll find in the literature are more to do with long-term strategy and policy rather than operational issues. So what is a digital twin? Well, this comes from the engineering world. If you buy a piece of equipment from General Electric or other major manufacturers, what you'll get is a piece of software which is a digital replica of potential and actual physical assets, processes, people, places, systems and devices. It provides both the elements and the dynamics of how a device operates and lives through its life. And a true digital twin has two important characteristics. There is a physical or a virtual connection between the physical reality, the physical thing that it's mimicking, and the corresponding software model. And that connection is established by picking up data from the equipment involved using sensors, so it's real-time data continually flowing into the software model. So what might a digital twin for management look like? Well, just go through that definition, replace the word device with organization, and what you get is this. A management digital twin would be a digital replica of potential and actual organizational assets, processes, people, places and systems, not devices generally. It would provide both the elements and the dynamics of how that organization, that department or that issue operates continually. We're not usually concerned with organizations living through their entire life cycle. We're looking at ongoing organizations. And instead of that connection with physical reality, there is a correspondence between the organization's real world elements and the virtual model. So things you see in the model are matched against things that are observable and measurable in the real world. And instead of picking up real-time data from sensors, we're picking it up from organizational reporting systems that every organization operates. Now, an important distinction here, those physical digital twins pick up every single event that happens to that piece of equipment. Now, the equivalent here would be that we would pick up every transaction that happens to the organization. So every person hired and fired, every customer purchase event, every item ordered and flowing through the supply chain and so on. And that would be a huge model. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would be enormous, and it would be very demanding to specify and create. However, I believe we can get most of the benefits we're looking for fast and easily with a rather more limited specification of such a management digital twin. So I'm going to give you an illustration here, and we're going to start from a very minimal staff hiring process model, and we're going to switch it to operate on very short time units of days. Now, that staffing level requirement is driven by demand for customer support in the business that this staff group is actually part of. And what that leads to is a potential digital twin model for staffing management in this demonstration example. And that digital twin could be suitable both for operational short-term decision making and for long-term strategic planning and policy development for the organization. Now, many, if not most managers I talk to, when you use the word model, they think you're talking about a process map. And because when we get down to the operational details that a managerial digital twin requires, we'd be looking at processes in some detail. We need to understand what the link is between a process map and a model. So here is a model of an extremely simple hiring process. You place a job advert, you screen the applications, you issue job offers, you receive the acceptances, you check whether you've got the people you need. If you have, then you stop hiring. If you haven't, you go back round and place another job advert. Now in that process map, what you're seeing are the activities that are being done by the team involved, and the elements of the system are first of all, they're qualitative. There's no numbers on any of this, but secondly, they're verbs. They are things that people or groups actually do. Now here is a matching system dynamics model of exactly the same process. And the difference here is that you're looking at the stocks and flows of applications received, applications for review, offers sent out, candidates considering the offer, appointments being made, and we're accumulating the total number of staff hired on the right-hand side. As in the process map, we check if we've got the staff we want, and if we haven't, we go back round and place another job advertisement. And here, the things in the diagram are actually numbers. They're quantified, and they are nouns. They are actual things that you can see and touch. You can try this model yourself. It runs over 20 weeks, and it looks at a single hiring campaign, trying to get up to 35 people that you need for some task or other. Now, in the demonstration of the digital twin, we're going to change this a little bit, and we're going to pick up that same process, but we're going to adapt it for a more extensive business challenge. And here we're looking at an insurance business with hundreds of thousands of customers, and it needs customer support staff to respond to calls coming in from those customers. A percentage of those customers call each month, and support staff handle those daily calls. If you have understaffing, what you get is overload, and calls are badly handled, and the loss rate of customers, there's always going to be some customer loss rate in a business like this, but the call overload and badly handled calls would cause that customer loss rate to be increased. Now, if you have a staff shortage, what happens in the model is that triggers a hiring process, like we looked at on the previous slide. Now, because there's variability in that call rate coming in from customers, you can optionally set a percentage uplift on that staffing target to handle those peak call rates. Furthermore, because there will be episodes that happen in our business, and we're going to look in particular at marketing campaigns to bring in more customers, we may need to impose extra hiring episodes to plan for things that are coming up. So here's the system structure of that staffing challenge. At the top, you've got that stock of customers. They're being won at a rate that is being driven by the marketing campaigns that the organisation is running. But on the right-hand side, a number of customers are lost each day. Down at the bottom, you've got support staff who are appointed each day, and there'll be some rate of staff turnover, depleting that stock of support staff. The balance between calls coming from customers and the capacity of the support staff determines the workload on that team, and if that workload gets too high, then customer support quality goes down and it increases the rate at which customers are lost. But what the model does is it takes that workload and it triggers, when necessary, hiring campaigns, and that brings in applications to exactly the same hiring process that we looked at in the simpler model. So we're going to look at this challenge on two different timescales, and the wider timescale is the strategic timescale. This business is a continuing business. It's been running many years, will continue to run for many years, and when they're looking at the strategy for the organisation, they'll be looking probably back over the last 2 years. So we're starting at the beginning of 2019. We're looking certainly out to the end of the next year. That's 2021. Could easily be a 3-year plan going out to 2022, 2023. But the immediate operational time window is the current period of time, and that's around the period September to December 2020. So the person responsible for customer support needs to be looking at what's going on a daily basis inside that much narrower time window. So here is what's happening in that time window. The time markers here, by the way, indicate the start of each month. So October 2020 there is actually the period after that vertical line, and November 2020 is the next period along, and so on. So we're looking at an episode which is going to happen shortly, and that is that the marketing department are going to run a campaign that they believe will bring in 40,000 new customers. And you'll notice that except for that campaign, the numbers of customers are actually falling by about 200 per day. But it's a bit more than 200 per day because extra number of customers are lost each day when calls exceed the peak capacity. Now, why would we allow that? Well, it's very expensive to have enough people employed to handle any possible rate of customer calls coming in. So we get the occasional daily spike when there are some bad service episodes and an extra number of customers get lost. But what happens when we trigger that marketing campaign? You'll notice that those peaks are more bunched together in that period. So the marketing campaign brings in more customers that we can't handle, so customer support quality goes down and we have a short period of higher customer loss rates. Eventually, though, the workload-driven hiring catches up with that higher call rate and the customer loss rate falls back to a lower rate. We don't want that to happen. We know this marketing campaign's coming up, so what do? Well, we add a short-term hiring campaign in advance of the marketing campaign. So over on the left hand side there's a period where applications are received at a more continuous rate over a number of days. That means that we've got an in tray, if you like, of applications for review in the first stock in the chain. We send out offers to a number of those people, so on any day there is a number of offers outstanding, and that's much higher in the orange scenario with this extra hiring campaign that it would normally be, the blue line in the lower campaign. And that leads to the current number of staff being increased rather quickly over the period before that marketing campaign hits. And what that does is it cuts that excess customer loss rate quite sharply, and as a result we retain more of the customers that are won by the marketing campaign. Now, how do we use this in practice? Well, what you would do is you would every day add the latest number of calls received from customers. So this is a continuing daily operation. Every day we look at how many calls have come in. You would also probably look at the number of badly handled calls that result from that incoming call rate. The next item in the model there could track that actual number of badly handled calls, not just the total number of calls. So let's change this from a short-term view, what's happening between September and December 2020, and look at the same issue over that 3-year strategic time horizon. And what do we see there? Well, that hiring campaign at that particular point in time just looks like a short-term blip in that much longer timescale. And you can see it compressed, if you like, into a very short episode in the 3-year period. It's still there, and furthermore, those customers who we retained because of that extra hiring campaign are actually retained out into the future, going out into 2021, because our regular normal hiring policy ensures that we take on enough staff to mostly look after those extra customers that we've taken on. Notice, by the way, that we've only done one hiring campaign here. In reality, of course, we'd probably do it again for the next marketing campaign and again for the next one after that, and so on. This is a screenshot of the whole model. Up there at the top is the section of the model that handles the customer growth and losses. In the middle you've got the call rate coming in, the workload, and the service quality that's triggering that extra loss of customers. Down at the bottom you've got the staff hiring pipeline and the policy that drives that. Over on the left, in the purple area at the top, is where you set the marketing campaigns, when they will happen, and there's a little lookup there that says how many customers are brought in by each of those marketing campaigns. In the next purple section is where you actually enter the updated daily call received data, and in the next purple sections, that's where you set the staffing uplift that you want to choose to avoid that call overload, and where you set the additional hiring efforts. And here is the link to that model. So what I've shown is how we might get from strategy or policy models to digital twins. What's involved here? Well, first of all, normal system dynamics principles apply. There's nothing in the model I've shown you that is not pretty standard for system dynamics models that are used in all kinds of situations. But a key difference here is that it's running on very short time units. We could make it even shorter and look at kind of hourly events, but it's probably not necessary for the operational challenges that we're looking to solve here. Another difference is that, as in this case, you may need to make processes explicit. In a policy level model only, hiring would just be a flow rate in the model. It might be a delayed flow rate, but that's all it would be. Here we're looking at the steps along that process. The placing of job advertisements, the screening of applications, the issue of offers, and the appointment of people who accept those offers. When you do this, you may well hit kind of small number issues. So there is a staff turnover rate in this model, but individuals leave on a pretty infrequent basis. So many days it's 0, other days it's 1. The other thing you'll need to do is zoom the timescale to provide operational and strategic insights. I've shown you this model running in detail over a few weeks, and the same model running over a 3-year strategic timescale. Just note, by the way, that these issues also apply in non-profit and public sector cases, and equivalent models are equally useful. Now, we can adopt the same principles and look at a whole business digital twin. And this concerns a company called Opun.co.uk. What they do is they provide support for people wanting to do home improvement projects. They get homeowner inquiries with web-based marketing and word of mouth. They recruit and validate contractors to do those projects, improve your kitchen or build a roof extension or whatever it may be. And they employ skilled staff to help the homeowners with designing the project, producing drawings, planning the work, looking after the building work itself, and handling warranty claims. And here is a control panel for the business that the management actually uses. At the top you've got the project pipeline. That's how many inquiries per week are coming in, how many projects are currently in planning, how many projects are being completed each week. At the bottom you've got quality and conversion rate indicators to do with how well inquiries are being handled, how good the actual projects are that are being done by those contractors. On the right are the financial results, the revenue, costs and profits of the business, and on the left the key decisions to do with hiring staff, seeking contractors, and spending marketing to bring in those customers. Now, something I have to explain to people who are not system dynamics experts is that there's nothing mysterious going on here. Think of each object in this diagram as the equivalent of a spreadsheet column with its name in the top cell and each period's values in the cells below. The arrows are like cell references. Those thick green arrows are also kind of cell references, but it's a different kind of formula. Customers this quarter is customers last quarter, plus new customers minus customers lost. And each object holds a simple formula. In this case, total sales equals customers multiplied by sales per customer. So we're not looking at kind of abstract Excel type formulae like A24 multiplied by $B, $3. It's actual natural language we're looking at. And any competent analyst can do this. You don't need genius people to do this. Here is the core pipeline for the Opun Home Projects business. And this one is running weekly over 2 years, with marketing bringing in those inquiries on the left, projects going into planning, projects being managed, and that drives the need for staffing at the top. Completed projects drive the revenue, and down at the bottom you've got the impact of quality on the loss of customer inquiries and projects in the planning stage. Here's the full model for this case. In the middle there is that project pipeline. Up at the top is the calculation of staffing and workload. Down at the bottom is the taking on of contractors to do the work for those home improvement projects. The quality consequences of having an imbalance between projects and the number of staff and contractors is calculated over to the right, and the financials are up at the top right. So this is a really successful case. Opun launched in February 2015, and the CEO, Rod Brown, built this model before he hired anybody, before he tried to raise any money or anything. He built this model of how he hoped the business should work. And he added early data as soon as the business started operating, shared the model with investors to raise £3 million of new venture funding early on in the life of the business. And he and his team now use this as a digital twin for weekly operating decisions. And there's a recording where you can hear Rod explain how the business works and how the model helped him at the link shown here. And the latest episode in the story is that the business was acquired by one of the UK's leading retail chains, the John Lewis Partnership Group. If you want to know more about dynamic business models, there are actually more slides at the end of the deck that I showed you the link for at the beginning of the presentation. In addition to the model itself that I've shown you here, there is a free short course on how to build these models at sdl.re/bmgetstart, and there are full modelling courses at sdl.re/bmcourses. And both of these are available for teachers.